4 days after the Emperor's broadcast, House Rain was bleeding. Not from war, not from battle, from consequences. Lord Rain stood inside the command chamber of the Dynasty flagship staring at a wall of rejection notices. One after another. Trade agreement revoked. Import license suspended. Diplomatic privileges removed. Military cooperation canceled. Resource exchange denied. The list stretched endlessly. Every few seconds another notification appeared. Another rejection. Another door closing. Another world choosing to distance itself from House Rain. Lord Rain smashed the display with a single punch. The wall cracked. Sparks erupted. Nobody in the room moved. Nobody dared. The officers stationed throughout the command deck stood frozen, watching, waiting, praying, not for success, for survival. The Lord of House Rain had become dangerous to be around, not because of his power, because of his temper. A new officer approached carefully. "My lord." The man immediately regretted speaking.
"What?" The officer swallowed. "The trade delegation from the Hydrax systems has formally withdrawn all agreements." Silence. Lord Rain stared. The officer continued. "Their message states they no longer wish to be associated with House Rain." Another monitor exploded. The officer immediately retreated. Across the room, Cassian sat silently watching. The old warrior had remained quiet for most of the day, observing, calculating, enduring. Eventually Lord Rain turned toward him. "You aren't saying much." Cassian folded his arms. "No." Another rejection notice appeared. Neither looked at it. Lord Rain paced. "They're abandoning us." Cassian nodded. "Yes, they're choosing the Empire. Yes, they're choosing Kenny." The old warrior finally looked up. "No." Silence. The room grew still. Cassian's voice remained calm. "They're choosing stability." Those words landed harder than any punch. Lord Rain's expression darkened. Cassian continued. "You made this happen." The room froze. Several officers immediately looked away. Nobody wanted to witness this conversation. Cassian didn't care. The old warrior stood, slowly, purposefully, then looked directly at his son. "You spent decades building fear." Another pause. "You spent decades building influence." Another. "You spent decades building a legacy." Silence. Cassian's eyes narrowed. "And you destroyed it in 4 days." Nobody breathed. Lord Rain looked furious. Cassian continued anyway. "You attacked the Emperor." Another pause. "You failed." Another. "You exposed us." Another. "And now everyone sees exactly what we are." The command chamber had become a tomb. Every officer wished they were somewhere else. Anywhere else. Lord Rain slowly stepped forward. Cassian didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't care. The old warrior looked almost disappointed, which somehow hurt more. Then Cassian delivered the final blow. "You've become emotional." Silence. The old warrior shook his head. "Your mother would have been ashamed." The punch came instantly. The entire room gasped. Cassian crashed backward through a tactical table. Metal bent, displays shattered. The old warrior hit the floor hard. Silence followed. Absolute silence. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. Lord Rain stood over him, breathing heavily. Years of frustration, years of failure, years of humiliation. Everything boiling over. Cassian slowly looked up from the floor. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. And still, the old warrior wasn't afraid. That somehow made Lord Rain even angrier. "You think this is my fault?" Cassian wiped the blood away. "Partly." Lord Rain grabbed him by the collar. "You think Kenny would have stayed loyal?" "No," Cassian answered immediately. The answer surprised everyone, even Lord Rain. The old warrior continued. "He was never yours." Silence. "He stopped being yours the moment you murdered his mother." The room became deadly quiet. Lord Rain released him, not because he wanted to, because the truth hurt. Cassian slowly stood. Despite his age, despite the hit, despite everything, the old warrior remained imposing. Then he looked toward the star map. "We still have options." The room focused immediately. Cassian pointed toward a distant sector. A world appeared, unknown to the audience, unknown to reach, unknown to the Empire. A frontier resource colony, rich, weak, vulnerable. The old warrior folded his arms. "We need resources." Another pause. "We need a demonstration." Lord Rain stared at the planet, then slowly smiled. A dangerous smile, the kind nobody in the room wanted to see. Hours later, the fleets moved, No declarations, no warnings, no negotiations, just war. The colony never stood a chance. House Rain descended from orbit like a storm. Cities burned. Defense satellites vanished. Communication arrays disappeared. Military resistance lasted less than an hour. Civilian resistance lasted slightly longer. Not because they were stronger, because they didn't know surrender wouldn't matter. The fleets stripped the world. Resources, technology, infrastructure, everything valuable. Then came the executions. Systematic, efficient, terrifying. Entire settlements vanished. Entire populations erased. The operation lasted 3 days. When House Rain departed, nothing remained. The planet still existed. Its people did not. The galaxy learned of it shortly afterward. News channels exploded. Emergency broadcasts filled every system. Citizens gathered around screens. Governments demanded answers. Military analysts struggled to explain what they were seeing. Then came the footage. Burned cities, destroyed settlements, mass graves, a dead world. The anchor's voice shook. The death toll is still being calculated. Another image appeared. Smoke, fire, ruin. The reporter continued. Current estimates suggest over 27 million casualties. The galaxy went silent, because everyone understood. This wasn't conquest. This wasn't war. This was extermination. Far away. On reach. Kenny sat inside the command center watching the broadcast. Pine stood beside him. Lyra remained silent. Darius looked physically ill. Nobody spoke. The footage continued. More destruction, more death, more evidence. The news anchor eventually looked toward the camera. Imperial officials have officially attributed the attack to House Rain. The image shifted. Lord Rain, Cassian, the House Rain crest. Wanted, condemned, feared. The anchor swallowed. Then delivered the line that would spread across the galaxy within hours. Today marks the first confirmed planetary extermination carried out by House Rain. Silence. Nobody in the room moved. The broadcast ended. The screen faded. For several moments only silence remained. Then Kenny stood, slowly, deliberately. His expression didn't show anger. That scared everyone more, because anger passed. This didn't. Darius finally spoke. They've crossed the line. Kenny nodded, a single time. The ruler of Reach looked toward the stars beyond the command center windows. Toward House Rain territory. Toward the future. Toward war. Then he quietly spoke. They just gave me permission. And for the first time, the people closest to Kenny Reach understood something terrifying. Lord Rain wasn't the only one capable of ending a dynasty. He was just the first one willing to try.